Hello everybody, this is an introduction to a video that I shot in March 2020. It was my first ever Facebook Live video and I am quite obviously nervous. I'm speaking very fast. I decided to re-upload this because when Facebook Live shoots a video it inverts it, so I was constantly referring to the fact that, hey you guys, you can't see this. I'm pointing to the Enneagram diagram and the symbol, and many times I'm saying that. So I've gone through the whole thing and I've converted it, which took me a long time as I had to do it in stages. I also then edited it quite heavily. I still think there's good content in it. What's happened in the 10 months since I shot that is that I've really gone deeply into healing myself further. I saw clients in person for 14 years until March 2020. I had just stopped seeing clients in person because the coronavirus had just hit. So I see every client online now. I've also spent the whole year meditating, using all these tools, EFT and NLP, hypnosis, binaural beats, and I've really had to dig deep at times because it's been a hard time. And it's been a hard time for many people. Many of my clients have lost businesses, lost huge amounts of money. But what I've done is use that time for going deeply into myself. I'm an Enneagram type 6, and I always had the thought of what would happen if I was ever jailed for something that I didn't do. And I had that thought from my early 20s, probably my late teens. And I would always think that what I would do is meditate. And all of us to some degree have been in this together around the whole world. We've been imprisoned on some level. We're in our third lockdown here in Britain, so I'm hardly seeing anybody at all. Just the odd few people who are willing to go for socially distant walks with me. But I don't go into other people's houses, I don't see my family. It's been really, really hard time. But you can see from the video that I'm talking quite fast, and even I've gone back to have a look at quite a number of my videos in the past. And because this is about the Enneagram, this video, it's made me become really aware of that I can be in the public eye and speak more slowly and to be more present. Although I'm not terribly present in the first hour of this, I do a practice after a while and I become a little more present. I was nervous because it was my first ever Facebook Live video, and you never know who's watching you, and it's a bit of a nervy thing. But I've taken this year to become even more present and calm. But I still think there's value in re-uploading this and offering it to the world. If you have any questions, put them in the comments down below, and I will get back to you. I just had the thought this morning I'm going to do a live video. So one of the things that I do is the Enneagram. How many of you have seen the film Seven? You remember that with Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt? Can you remember what the 7 deadly sins are? Okay, can you remember what they are? Can anybody add what they are? Can you remember what remember the film? What was Kevin Spacey's character doing? He was giving hell to other people who were really in their ego. So they were doing, can you remember? Lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, absolutely. Okay, of the 9 Enneatypes, we can fit 7 in there. This is Oscar Achazo's Enneagram of the Passions. He's just passed away, he's just died. I don't know if it was related to coronavirus, but I saw that Russ Hudson had said that. So okay, so let's start with anger. Enneagram type 1s are like perfectionists. If I get them as clients, their issues are all about anger in the world. Angry with other people, angry with the economy, angry in their relationships. There can be other things, but the general focus and the general thing all of the time is that, they're angry. Enneatype 1s who are in this place of needing perfection in the world. They're needing things to be right a certain way. They're very moral. They have
high expectations of others and even more high expectations of themselves. When they get this, go here in integration, they go to adventure. So that says gluttony. The best part of Enneatype 7s is that they're kind of free-spirited, they're very adventurous. Paul McKenna is an Enneatype 1, so you hear of his transformation over time, and he's less perfectionistic about stuff. He's less highly strung about things. So he's become more free-spirited. He's an Enneatype 1 with a 2 wing. I'm going a bit complex here. That's a double dose of needing to still the mind. But so they go here. When they're in, so this is an integration. In stress, they go here. So I've just picked up an Enneagram Type 1 in Florida. And after 5 minutes, it was so clear that they were an Enneagram Type 1. All their issues that they were working on, their past, their present life, and the things that kind of they worried about kind of in the future to some extent, were all related to being an Enneatype 1. It was so obvious. It was really easy. But they could only associate with being here, in this point here, Enneatype 4, which is envy. So we're going to go through all of them, but we've got Enneatype 2s. They didn't diagnose Enneatype 3s like 2,000 years ago. They didn't really see that. It didn't really get incorporated. There was a saint, can't remember his name, came up with this vainglory, or really effectively it was deceit. But Enneatype 4s typically struggle with envy throughout their lives. They struggle with jealousy, and whatever anybody else has got, it's like they want. They go through life to some extent, unless they become highly evolved and really work on themselves, that something's always missing. Enneatype 5s, you're going to avarice or greed. What is this greed? And really, it's greed for knowledge. I have an Enneagram Type 5 wing. My ego never feels that I know enough. I never feel 100% competent and capable. I have a fear of being seen as incompetent or incapable. It's been a lifelong thing for me to work through and to know that the phrase that I've coined is your liberation is in your opposite tendency. So you have to go beyond that and just integrate into life anyway. And if someone calls you out from it, it's less painful than actually not integrating into life. But the ego could still have greed for knowledge. I have just a thirst for finding out more and more and more stuff. Enneatype 6 is, well, I am an Enneagram Type 6, and so it's all my issues, everything to do with my own personal journey, were all to do with fear, feeling unsafe in the world, feeling that the world was out to get me and it wasn't a safe place. And so I had 4 years of counselling and psychotherapy working with that. And that didn't really help. It did to a certain degree, but didn't really. And when I discovered this work in 2006, and particularly when I discovered my own Enneagram type, I could learn that if I went to my opposite tendency and learned to find security within me, I could then paradoxically feel safer by interacting in the world. And actually I got more back from the universe, more from the world, whereas like a complete agoraphobic who is perhaps an Enneagram Type 6 and is not going out, is just going to go round and round and round in their head, just worrying. So if I'm working with Enneatype 6s, I have to get them to trust me and get them to listen to their inner guidance. That's not part of the 7. So Enneatype 3s and 6s, 2,000 years ago, they didn't consider that was really, to be in that place was a sin against God. But we can leave religion to one side, because the Enneagram is a amalgamation of the Sufi teachings, which is the spiritual part of Islam, and also the sort of the real spiritual part of Christianity, and it goes down to the real core. Enneatype 7s, Russell Brand, Chris Evans, Robin Williams, not Robbie, Robin Williams was a 7, Goldie Hawn, Ram Dass, the spiritual teacher, hi David. And they struggle with gluttony, and that's that. They struggle where Enneatype 6s struggle with worst case scenario thinking. Enneatype 7s, it's all about best case scenario thinking. the ego is always going, whatever they've got, the grass is greener on the other side. So they can have this, Buddhists call it the monkey mind, so they can go from one thing to the next. So whatever they've got, the ego just goes, well, this isn't enough. I need to go and get the next thing. Enneatype 8s, Donald Trump, Putin, Saddam Hussein. Let's use a positive example. Oscar Schindler was an Enneagram Type 8. And they struggle with lust throughout their lives, and they have to learn to really get in touch with their hearts and open their hearts. Enneatype 7s and 8s, as well as Type 3s, their practice is about opening the heart, really getting deeply into discovering the truth of who they are, and that is through opening the heart. Enneatype 9s, Sloth, Keanu Reeves, Whoopi Goldberg. Enneatype 9s, the spiritual teacher Mooji most definitely is an Enneagram Type 9, a very highly evolved version. And so when I'm working with 9 clients, it's always like they really struggle to get going. It's like they feel like they're going through treacle. So it's like sloth, it's like self-forgetting. They really want everyone to be okay, and so they're afraid of really putting their own needs first, and they're afraid of upsetting the balance. So they really want to have harmony. So with all of them, with all of the Enneagram types, it's about going to your opposite tendency and going beyond your ego limitation. Because if you just live by your ego, you're like a dog chasing its tail all of the time. All spiritual teachings are saying whatever you seek outside of yourself, never satisfy the mind. You won't have fulfillment. So we have to do this inner work. And, I have the majority of my work now, because of the coronavirus, is kind of just leaning just to surviving really on American clients. But everything that I do, clinical hypnotherapy, life coaching, EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques, neuro-linguistic programming, all came from America. And I think Americans just are much more open-minded, they're much more liberated. I can see people in England and they watch me, and some people sort of like still really struggle. And, I'm not that expensive. And so some people just I'll meet them out and they'll still want to question me over and over again. So if anybody's got any questions about what I do or about the Enneagram, I'm really happy to answer. In fact, that might make it more interesting because it might make it more interactive. But if you think about the film Seven, what was Kevin Spacey's character right at the end? He hated the fact that he was envious. So it was Enneagram Type 4. And was he or is he an Enneagram Type 4? He definitely wasn't or isn't a very healthy Enneagram type, because he's lost his entire career. And but his character in that is a 4 to some extent. Is he a 4 with a 5 wing in the film? Quite possibly. More 4-5 because he's quite isolated. 5s are sort of more can be more isolated. So I don't really want to use Russ Hudson's website because I don't feel it's quite right. But if we just simply go to again, Oscar Ochelzo, bless him, he's just died. Enneagram of Holy Ideas. If we go beyond our ego, we go to holy perfection, holy will, holy freedom for 2s, holy law, holy hope, holy origin, holy omniscience, which is knowledge, holy transparency, holy faith, holy wisdom, holy plan, holy truth, and holy love. You go to the Enneagram of Personality on Wikipedia, you can see everything here. So Enneatype 1s, reformer perfectionist. The ego fixation is always on resentment, anger. It's really, I know this is I'm going to use a football example, but if you look at Roy Keane, who's an Enneatype 1, he can't let go of this anger that Alex Ferguson wronged him and he had to leave Manchester United. So the reformer, the perfectionist, the holy idea is perfection. So the basic fear is of being corrupt, imbalanced, being bad. So there's a deep fear of being of being seen as that in the world, and so they're all based on fears. Helen, are you the only one left? I think it looks like you're the only one left in the whole group. All right, so do you want to learn? Like, I think you're an Enneagram type 9. So if I just go with this, okay? So peacemaker, mediator. The ego fixation is on indolence, daydreaming. I might lose you now because I've gone and done this, but tell me if I'm wrong. The holy idea is about love. And the basic fear is loss, fragmentation, separation. The basic desire is wholeness and peace of mind. And the temptation is always about avoiding conflicts, avoiding self-assertion, sloth. The virtue is action. So I think you're a pretty healthy 9 because, you know, you've taken action and done things in life. So I meet some 9s and they just can't move forward. It's like they're literally going through treacle all the time. I worked out that it took me years, but I think Brian Adams is an Enneagram type 9. He really cares about lots of people in the world. He set up his own charity, and you know, he's pretty good in. Oh, we're up to 2. Someone's joined you, Helen, in the group. So he really cares. Yeah. So he really cares about people. Nines are real humanitarians. They really care about other people. They don't want conflict. They don't want people to suffer. So there's a tendency to step in and to take control of situations. But the spiritual teachings are, can you do that, and can you do it from a place of love and not fear? So if you go and have a look at the spiritual teacher Muji, and like he's definitely an Enneagram type 9, and he's got a massive following. Also Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk, is an Enneagram type 9, definitely. He's had a stroke now, but you know, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. It was all about non-violence and all about, you know, the creation of peace. And he was asked once about it's called Thai, which means teacher. And a child asks him and says, "Thai, what do you suffer with?" And he said, "It's the witnessing of watching others suffer." And I went, he's a 9, absolutely. But a really healthy, really highly evolved version of that. If you look at Muji as well, Muji's a really healthy and highly evolved version. If you've got any questions, you're one of only 2 in the group. I don't know who else is watching. So I was going to do this and just make it a little bit interactive. I don't know how long I've been talking for. I think that's you laughing. I'm up to 3 in the group now. So it's like when I started doing this, it was Matt Tyrrell. Hi, Matt. Matt, if you've got any questions, Jane Denton, Jane. Oh my God, Jane, bless you. Jane has been a big champion of helping me over the years and done a wonderful testimonial video. Jane, I'm sure she's okay in saying she's an Enneagram type 2 with a 1 wing. And Jane has brought me in thousands of pounds worth of work just from that one video testimonial. Hello, my dear. And it's got me clients all over the world. In fact, it nearly got me Whitney Houston's former singing coach. You don't know that, but Dr. Justin Marciagani, who sends me clients from Kansas in America, he recommended me this person, so I nearly got to work with Whitney. But they never turned up, so they never worked with me. But I know at some point I will get some celebrities come. I know that Russell Brand didn't get it when he read me out on air 3 years ago, but I haven't yet got my book out there, and I'm not. Yeah, you put no way. I'm not going to chase anything, so I'm still a work in motion myself. I've used the Enneagram to come from a really unhealthy level, like when I was 31, 32, when I was just paranoid about the world, and now, you know, I mean, my life is absolutely incredible. I'm really blessed, and that's because I used all of these tools, the hypnosis, the NLP, the EFT, the life coaching, but the Enneagram, just like, it was like, wow, thank you. You're sending hearts, Jane, bless you. It was the Enneagram that just blew my mind, and And for some people, it doesn't really blow their mind. They're kind of interested, and then they kind of leave it, and then, and I think kind of people kind of, well, what's it going to get me? And the reality is that it's not going to egoically get you anything. It's when you egoically stop trying to get things, like, you know, things from the outside world. So, you know, trying to get, you know, goodness, integrity, balance. I mean, they're well intentioned, but if the mind's constantly addicted and constantly trying to get that, it's like the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, who was an Enneatype 5, most likely, who said, if you wish to overcome suffering, you must stop craving. And that's wanting. And they're all wanting something. They're all not still. And the Buddha is a good example of stillness. No wanting anymore. Being. And there's an addiction that, you know, the ego is always seeking something. I mean, I've heard Mooji talk about that. The ego is like a mirage, and we're in the desert, and we see this thing in the distance, and we go, water, I need to go for it. You know, so the ego is like tempting you all of the time to go, you know, to find it, and whether that's security, control, or love and approval, we'll never find it. Peter Gallimore is watching. Hi, Peter. We're just never going to find that outside of ourselves, and so we have to learn to break our addiction to wanting to chase after the mirage, because it's an illusion. You know, we're never going to get the love or the security or the control by chasing it outside of ourselves. And so the spiritual teachings are to go inward and to find it within. And paradoxically, when you act in the world through not wanting to get love, through not wanting to get to security, through not wanting to be in control, the reality is that actually more wonderful things flow to us, and we feel more secure, we feel more loved, and actually we feel more in control. It's an absolute, complete and utter paradox. And it's something that I've just been in love with since discovering it in 2006. And I only found it on a course with somebody who didn't actually know their own Enneagram type. They were a 3, and they were saying that they were a 6 at the time. And I was thinking, how on earth are they able to move forward so fast? 3s move forward really quite fast. That's people like Anthony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, O.J. Simpson is a really unhealthy version of an Enneatype 3. And I think Nicole, who he murdered, I think it's safe to say that he murdered Nicole and Ron Goldman. I think Nicole was probably a rebellious type 6. And I think that she finally just didn't want him anymore. And the Enneatype 3, which kind of goes through this sort of, if they're unhealthy, this like deceiving themselves and deceiving others. I think that I think when she finally rejected him, and he's a love and approval type, he went into complete and utter meltdown and rage, and took her life, and took the young guy, Ron Goldman, who was just delivering classes. So anybody got any questions? Whenever I say that, I think it takes about a minute to catch up for questions to come in. Yeah, it's been just something that's it like takes over every single one of my sessions. And like, if you look on my testimonials page, most people say, yeah, the EFT, the life coaching, or you know, we did some hypnosis. That was great, but it was the Enneagram that just changed my life. I've been invited to, in fact, how I got to be read out by Russell Brand on air 3 years ago was a guy called Matt, who came from another girl called Donna. So it came by word of mouth, by recommendation. Matt is an Enneatype 4 with a 5 wing, so that's like Michael Jackson. Prince was probably 4-5, could have been 4-3, but Matt hadn't had a partner. He was kind of jealous of other people, like other people's lives are better. Hi, Albert. I did the EFT with him, but if you go and look on my testimonials page, he says like the Enneagram was just so amazing. And he's now married, and he's now got a little boy, or not married actually. I've got an invitation to the wedding. And it was he who contacted Russell Brand 3 years ago, and Paul McKenna was on the week before. And he said, "I've just got your name read out by Russell Brand," and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" But unfortunately, Russell Brand as an Enneagram Type 7 has gone from the really unhealthy part of 7 to the average part of 7, and that's a massive step. And I think that he probably thinks that, you know, I know he's still searching, he's still looking, but I think that he's had such a transformation that he's, you know, not that he's there, but, you know, it's almost like a eureka moment. I remember that for me, when I came from the really unhealthy place of 6 to the average place. I'm not in the highly evolved place of a 6, but I'm certainly getting significantly more in the healthy part. So I just think it was the wrong time for when he read me out on air, and I just went, look, if I haven't got a book, I'm just going to be promoting other people's publishing, so I'll wait some time. So what have you said here, Jane? At the moment, Chris Evans on Virgin is into changing lives. I actually had a Enneatype 6 client who contacted me and said that Chris Evans read the Enneagram out on air. Actually, when did he do that? I think it was Kevin who told me that. Kevin's done me a video testimonial. That was about a year ago, something like that, 2 years ago. So, yeah, I think that's the positivity. Like Chris Evans, like who's an Enneatype 7, like Russell Brand is. 7s can be really caring about other people. They don't want other people to suffering, a bit like 9s. And Ricky Gervais, Enneatype 7. Robin Williams was an Enneatype 7. I actually have the same birthday as Robin Williams, 21st of July. Yeah, it's, you know, we were all in this together during this coronavirus. And I think I just felt like, you know, if I can do a video, if I can help one person, I think that's good. Hardly anybody stayed. So I've got 2 people left watching. But I did a video the other day about, like, it's really important to do, like, just the 3 practices, which are learning to still your mind. So that's Enneatype 1s, 2s, and 6s have a fast mind. Have I got a fast mind? Yes. So I have to do things that learn to still it. And that, one of the wonderful practices is meditation. Another one is walking and being in nature. Well, that's good also for my 5 wing. So Enneatype 4s, 5s, and 9s really benefit from grounding into the body. It's, you know, like Matt, who contacted Russell Brand, he got into yoga. And he says, you know, like a day without yoga is like a day without brushing your teeth now. So, you know, it's something like that. I think I also said, you know, go out walking as well. I think he walks or was walking on his way to work. So that was something that was beneficial. And so Enneatype 3s, 7s, and 8s really need to get into practices that open the heart. So then you've got a double dose. So Enneatype 1s with a 2 wing and a 2s with a 1 wing. So it's Jane, if you're still watching. They have a double dose of needing to still the mind. So a 1 with a 2 wing would be Adyashanti, the spiritual teacher. Ow, my bum's going to sleep. And Paul McKenna. So if you look at Paul McKenna and you look at where Adyashanti is, you can see where they are in terms of spiritual development. And, you know, Adyashanti are much more serene, much more peaceful. Hi, Jane. Ask me some questions, Jane. Like, please. Like, there's 2 of you left, so I'm not sure who the other person is. But anything that you can do that will benefit you to still your mind is really going to help you. But yeah, if you look between Adyashanti and Paul McKenna, and you can see, you know, there's a massive difference in the level of stillness that Adyashanti has. He's not striving for anything. He's not trying to get something from the external world so he can then be. It's hi, Andrew, and it's just something that he's mastered. He understands that. He understands that if you're searching constantly in the outside world for something, you're a victim. You're creating suffering, like the Buddha said. You know, you've got to end that wanting. You've got to end that incessant wanting. So 1s with a 2 wing, 2s with a 1 wing. It's a double dose of needing to still the mind. Enneatype 4, 5s. Enneatype 5 or 4s with a 5 wing, and 5s with a 4 wing as a double dose of needing to ground into the body, and 7s with an 8 wing and 8 with a 7 wing. That's a double dose of needing to open the heart. Now, you've asked me a question about Trump. Is Trump and Boris the same type? Absolutely not, but they both share a 7 wing. So Boris is definitely a counterphobic Enneatype 6, a phobic type 6, which is what I am. A counterphobic Enneatype 6 would be Noel Gallagher, NNM, even Hitler was a counterphobic 6. But a phobic type 6, that's more like Michael McIntyre, Lee Evans, who's retired, an English comedian, David Letterman. A counterphobic type 6, that's more Jay Leno. They're kind of a bit more bullish, kind of a bit more sort of in your face. You know, think about NNM. I think about Hitler. But yeah, so Boris is definitely a phobic type 6 with a 7 wing, and Trump is an Enneatype 8 but with a 7 wing. So 6s and 8s can sometimes be looked at as people would look at Hitler and thought Hitler was a type 8 like Putin or Trump, but it was more counterphobic Enneatype 6 territory, and all of that. Everything to do with what the Nazis did, it was all based on fear, and just trying to create this elite race, outside of the self, because when you create that, then you can be. Ironically, did you know? Look, the swastika is on the Buddha, and that's because the Nazis studied Buddhism, because they were seeing that the Buddhists were actually had something. That's the swastika is like eternal life. It's this. I think are they feet always in motion? But they studied it and obviously just did not get it at all. Do you think they are healthy types? Is Trump a healthy type? No. That's a good question. Is he a really unhealthy type? No. It's really somebody's own job to work out their own type and work out how healthy they are, rather than have someone else do that. Because I'm not doing it from an egoic point of view, But if I was to look at it at a discerning place, I'd say that Trump. I can see his 9 wing, but his 7 wing has got him to a lot of trouble. Hi, Claire. Claire, if you've got any questions, I had a conversation with Claire about the Enneagram yesterday. Trump, no. I mean, a really highly evolved, really healthy 8. There's a spiritual teacher named Eli Jackson Bear, who's quite, in his heart. It's quite beautiful to listen to him. If you become really healthy within your Enneatype, you aren't really attracted to things like politics and probably even religion, because you recognize that it's still trying to get something outside of yourself. Hey, Sue, thanks for tuning in. Sue, if you've got any questions, please ask away. Yeah. So, is Boris a healthy Enneatype 6? I would say he's pretty good. Yeah, I would say that any highly evolved Enneatype 6s are learning to trust their guts. I mean, that's an enormous amount of stress. He's under. He's even got the coronavirus right now. He's almost like the. He's almost a bit like the court jester, but now the court jester is in the place of the king, and he's in charge. I didn't personally vote Tory, but I actually think that he is doing a really good job in as much as calming the public. And that 7 wing that he's got, which is 7's, a lot optimistic. If you think about Russell Brand, if you think about Chris Evans, if you think about how Robin Williams, God bless his soul, was, it's uplifting. So Noel Gallagher, counterphobic Enneatype 6 with a 7 wing, he writes about positive songs, and you can just see that's the beauty that 7s have to the world. I think that's an important thing as well, that they've all got beautiful attributes. Hey, AJ watching from Australia. It's like the world is what it is because we've got these 9 personality types that all have wonderful gifts. We all support one another. We all provide something. From the beautiful book, The Wisdom of the Enneagram, which is I'm on my second copy. The first one fell apart. This is the second one, and it is literally falling apart here. If you look, my copy here, if you look on the front cover, it says... can you see that? Probably not. I'll read it for you instead. So it says 9 distinct personality types, 9 different perspectives on life, 9 ways of being in the world. Each type has extraordinary gifts. Every one of you. Lots of likes by Jane there. Each type has extraordinary gifts and predictable pitfalls. So with the Enneagram, it's like it helps to strengthen your weakest link, and everybody's got a weak link. So with Trump, it's bullying and being controlling. With a type 6 like Boris and myself, that's like worrying and worst case scenario thinking. But you can strengthen it. So you're only as strong as your weakest link. So Enneatype 1s, it says here beautifully, it says the reformer can lead through integrity and reason, or be hindered by perfectionism and resentment. The type 2, the helper, this is Jane. Everybody give her some love. She has helped me so much, so it can shine with generosity and healing power. She's a nurse. She's helping save lives. Send her some love. She's in fact, everybody should give a round of applause to Jane because I haven't been doing enough. I haven't been applauding. I should be opening my window at 8 o'clock in the evening and applauding the world, applauding the NHS, not just the NHS, but people around the world. The amount of work everybody's doing. Hey Dan, hope all's well. I have to say, guys, if you are not using them, definitely recommend if having sessions. Bless you, AJ. AJ, I think go and have a look at the Enneatype 4. We never even talked about the Enneagram. I was going to trade that for I was going to trade the Enneagram for you helping me get on the 3G pitch over in Kidderminster. He's now a professional footballer over in Australia, but he's not playing. Send him some love. He's a really cool guy. All right, so Enneatype 2s can shine with generosity and healing power, but what's the weakness there? Can struggle with people pleasing and possessiveness. Mother Teresa, Florence Nightingale. Dolly Parton is an Enneatype 2 with a 3 wing. A really unhealthy version is like Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, sort of like, you think Bill Cosby sort of like, oh, goodness me, that man has got some karma to pay off now. But Enneatype 2 with a 3 wing, like John Denver, like Dolly Parton. But, ooh, dear, he was trying to get something outside from the world and manipulating people, all trying to get love, but like in a sexual way, in a really manipulative, horrible, disgusting way. Thank goodness we've had such a change in consciousness that people like him, even Alex Salmon, has got away with something, but no one gets away with anything. Everyone carries their karma. So Enneatype 3s, the achiever, can become an inspiring example of excellence and authenticity. If you look at Anthony Robbins, sort of like it's all about like being the best, being outstanding, being sort of like this this person who is almost invincible. Tiger Woods, Enneatype 3. Tom Cruise. I think Taylor Swift is a 3. Oprah definitely is a 3. And a very good example of a 3 that's evolving. A good spiritual teacher called Wayne Dyer, who died 5 years ago, was a good example of how an Enneatype 3 really began to evolve and get really into their heart and help others, help humanity. Bless him, but he's passed away now. But what can they suffer with? They can struggle with blindly pursuing success and status. So they have to become authentic. They have to learn to be true to themselves and stop deceiving others, but ultimately stop deceiving themselves. If you're blindly, blindly trying to achieve success all the time, NLP teaches that success is a nominalization. Success it doesn't exist. You can't put success in a wheelbarrow. Success to me was about recovering my health. Success to me was finding peace. It had nothing to do with money in my bank and how many people followed me and adored me and all that. You know, as an Enneatype 6, it was that I wished to feel secure within inside of myself. So that's something that's the Enneagram can offer. Enneatype 4s, the individualists, can model creativity, intuitive power. I had a psychic in New York I picked up, and she was just broken inside, and she'd been diagnosed with breast cancer. Literally, people were sucking the energy from her. In my book about Messages from the Body, it says about breast cancer being sucked alive by the tit. Authenticity I look for a lot in people. Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the things that we've got, actually, Claire. We can be quite real and authentic. And your type 6 is Claire is a type 6. Where was I? Any type 4s, yeah. So I was able to help her make the change to coming out from being a psychic in New York to giving back to herself, loving herself. So they can be held back by moodiness and self-consciousness. So we began to strengthen that. And she actually moved away from being a psychic to actually becoming a self-development coach. And that was something that was really authentic for her. That was something that was creative, and using her intuitive powers, which she was using for being a psychic, she was using another way to help people evolve. So that was a beautiful thing. She gave me a lovely, lovely recommendation on my Google reviews, Google ratings. If anybody who hasn't done that, please go ahead and leave me a Google review. That would be awesome. I've got about 21 on there now. Enneatype 5's the investigator. Bill Gates, Eckhart Tolle, the Buddha, Enneatype 5, Tom York from Radiohead. They can demonstrate visionary intellect and inventiveness, or become increasingly eccentric and isolated. I think Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, I don't know if anybody's watching from America right now, but I think he was a 5 with a 4 wing. Yeah, definitely a really unhealthy version of that. Being eccentric and isolated. Yoda in Star Wars, great example of an Enneatype 5. Demonstrate visionary intellect and inventiveness. They can be very wise. So if you look at Yoda and look at Eckhart Tolle, that sounds like me too, though. Okay, well, look at the Enneatype. Maybe AJ, look at the Enneatype 3 and the Enneatype 4. I think you might be a 4 with a 3, bring 3 with a 4. So go and have a look at that. The thing with the Enneagram is that it's not just a type. If you just use it to type yourself, you're using 10% of its power. Like here it says, the wisdom, it's powerful, the complete guide to psychological and spiritual growth of the 9 personality types. If you strengthen your weak link, you're going to really strengthen your psychology. You're going to open up more to spirituality, because that means that you're trusting in something and an intelligence other than this. People have called that God throughout the ages, but if you wish to call it like I do, life with a capital L, the universe, source, all that is, people call it sometimes the home office. The Native American Indians called it Wakantanka. You begin to trust. There's an intelligence. Okay. Thank you for staying with me. I'm up to 6. Thank you. Here's my website. Look, there's some intelligence that's gone into this. But that's sacred geometry right there. You can't. There's not a 10th type. Ultimately, we all really would go into the circle right in the middle, where we center ourselves. We get to a place where people who've taken psychedelics such as ayahuasca, or which has DMT in it, or magic mushrooms, which has psilocybin, which creates psilocybin in the body. You go through a bit of an ego death, and you're not any one of these personalities anymore. You go to a place where you are one, and you are connected to all. How did you find out what type you are? I paid £6,000 to do a course in Harley Street when I was 31, and I did it over 18 months, and it was just a bolt-on part of the course. And they didn't really cover it. The teacher was an Enneatype 3. He reckoned he was an Enneatype 6. So I was told my type originally, because it was really quite obvious that I was a really unhealthy 6. Like at the age of 31, 32, I was hiding under tables. I was that scared and just lying in the recovery position with anxiety. When I was 30, I nearly tried to shuffle off this planet by my own hands. And the voice that saved my life said, you haven't done everything yet. So it opened up to something. There was an intelligence at work. There was intelligence something. What do I think of DMT? I have taken DMT. I have done ayahuasca, and I've done it in a spiritual ceremony. I don't know how, I'm fine with saying that it was done. It's not a party drug. It's really hardcore. You vomit, and I was asked to be part of the group, and it was done with a shaman, and I did it over 3 nights, and it's beautiful, and it's eye opening, and it's if you do it with reverence for the plant energy and the plant spirit, and you do it to heal, and you do it to evolve. It gives you an experience of being connected to something beyond your ego mind. And really, this is what the Enneagram is teaching, that you are going beyond your ego, but it doesn't last. So people will do, I haven't even smoked a joint, it's on my bucket list. Okay, we're going down a path here that I'm a 6 here, I've got to be careful, let's pull it back in. And all I can say was that it was a calling when I was 40 years old, and I just knew that it was something. I was either going to go and pay money and go and travel to the Central American or South American rainforest, which you can do, and you can partake in ayahuasca ceremonies, and the majority of them, I believe, are done very well. They're done with reverence, and it's reverence from the plant spirit, and it connects you. If you go and put up Sting, the singer Sting, who was in the band The Police, put up Sting and his ayahuasca experience. He's an Enneatype 3, and he just said like his ego just melted away, and this was like when he was really into saving the rainforests in the 90s. And he said, that he went to this church in the middle of this jungle, and they were all like taking this brew, and he and Trudy, his wife, they both took it, and he just talks about it, and there's a short version of it. It's about 3 minutes long, and it's a beautiful experience that he had. Yet we can't reside in that place, so it's to bring back that information. I'll have to open that up, AJ. It's bring back that information and then partake and integrate into the world using that. So it's illegal, and it's something that I'm just going to trust. Can I open it? It's something that I'm just. I've been so honest about my whole journey that we've transcended to that. So we're talking about that right now. In fact, let's just read what AJ says. Something I would like to do because all the most successful and mindful people in the world have done it. That's not true. And recommend it, and recommend it takes you to a different level of mindset and let you be one with yourself. What I will say is that some people have, but it's not the answer. I met people over 3 nights who were really quite unhealthy Enneatypes. They were still. There was like people came and went, but they were working through their own shit. They were working through their own stuff. Even the shaman, who was an Enneatype 8, I could work out, wasn't deeply into his heart. And that guy had done like 1,000 ceremonies on himself, with other people. So we can't just rely on plant medicine. If you feel a calling to do it, then you're meant to do it, and it was for me. And as I said, I would have gone over, and I still may go over to the jungle to go and do it, but it's not something that I need to do right now. But if you feel it's on your path and you feel it's a calling, absolutely, go and do it. But the experience, it won't last, and you'll come back to your ego will kick back in, and things will carry on as normal. But it can just be a little opening to something, and you can find that equally just by discovering your own egoic type with the Enneagram, and realizing that this incessant wanting that the mind does will never get you to this place where you want to be. So this is why I say this is always wanting, but the heart is wishing. So you pull that. If you create a life which is based on the wishes of your heart, you'll create a really great life. So it doesn't matter. I mean, it's a tool. Like psychedelics are a tool. In fact, if you look at the work that was done in the late 60s, early 70s with using psilocybin, which is in magic mushrooms, it wasn't until the FDA shut that down because people were starting to heal of drug addictions and PTSD and rape, war trauma, and all different things. And of course, we can't have people healing, can we? So if you go and have a look, BBC magic mushrooms, psychedelics, and go to YouTube, you'll see they actually did a trial at a top London hospital where this guy who'd had chronic depression throughout his lifetime, and they called it non-affected medication depression. So whatever medication he was taking, it wasn't touching the depression. So he was a really deep case, and he stopped taking the depression. They stopped taking the depression. Interesting. He stopped taking the medication for a while, and then he was given. He went on a placebo trial, but he worked with there's two psychotherapists. It's in a hospital, but they work with him while he's going through this psychedelic trip. If you go and look at YouTube, it's actually on there, and it was a trial that was done. And he was able to, just after one trip with that, he was able to come off antidepressants. So, that's pretty incredible. And, we're talking about big pharma, aren't we? So it's, don't worry, I'm still here. Hello. Is it the art? I mean, if you got Gwyneth Paltrow's got something on, is it called the Gloop Lab? That she's got something on there with psychedelics. I didn't really want to talk about psychedelics, but it's just what's happened. But if we do psychedelics, or if we're drawn to do it, or something like that happens, again, what it's teaching or showing you is that there is a life beyond the ego, and you can create this stillness, this oneness, where this mind is not wanting anymore. It lowers. What I love about someone like Eckhart Tolle, who's a Enneatype 5 with a 6 wing, is that he has integrated into life. Like 5s really struggle to do that. And so they have to go to their opposite tendency and really integrate into life, and that's what he's done. And he's very honest. There's a very honest part of him, which to me speaks volumes, that he's got a 6 wing. And he says that the noise in the head is just reduced. He says that it's reduced to 20 to 30%. So that doesn't mean it's not there. So through doing techniques like stilling your mind, grounding into your body, opening your heart, hi Margaret, it means that you're going to reduce that noise in the head. And you're going to feel more of what they call as your essence. It's the thing that's underneath this ego mind, the essence of who we truly are. And from that place, you were able to be more authentic, not just with others, but with yourself. And you can tune more into the neurons. Like there's 80 to 100 billion neurons here in the brain. Did you know your gut has 100 million neurons? So did I say 80 to 100 billion? 100 million in the gut. The heart has about 40,000 neurons. So it's really, really important to listen to the other intelligence inside of us. If we're just getting drowned out by this intelligence, like when I pick clients up, it's all here. And like Einstein says, you cannot solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it. Einstein, an Enneatype 5. We have to go to a different level of consciousness. I think Einstein also said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So what does the Enneagram do? The Enneagram is doing the same thing over and over again. It's looking externally for happiness. It's looking externally for love. It's looking externally for control. It's looking externally for security. And it'll never get there. It's just, you're never going to find it. It's never going to work. So we have to learn to trust other intelligence that's inside of us, even like a higher self. There's something that's within all of us that can guide us, to help us to more peaceful, more productive lives, where we're actually giving back to the world. We're not taking, we're giving. A lot of the world, this coronavirus has actually just stopped so much that people aren't so obsessed about getting what they want. But that's a great deal of the problem with society. It's like running around, rushing around to get this thing, because when we get it, then we can be. And it's like, it's madness. And so what this is actually an opportunity for, and a gift, and it's teaching us, is that we can learn to be. We can actually find being now. When are we going to find being? When we get the new sofa, when we get the new car, when we go on holiday to Barbados, when we get that new partner, when we have the next baby, when we get the pay rise, when we get the pension, when we get the whatever it is, it's an endless addiction that the mind is caught up in. And it is, I say to clients, it's like a dog chasing its own tail. And it's insanity. So you have to create that being now. You have to break out. Loo rolls. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's like, I've got to have a loo roll. When I get that loo roll, I can then really relax. How absolutely insane. Any questions, anything that do you think that would be useful that you've both experienced on your journeys that other people would experience? Because a lot of people just go, I don't get this. I don't even understand this. How is it gonna better my life? How is it gonna help me get that partner that I want? Is it gonna help me get more money? Is it going to pay off the mortgage? Is it going to what's this going to get me? And like I've said so many times, it's going to get you anything egoically, but it's going to allow you to feel more peaceful. It's going to allow you to be more loving and to feel more loved by creating some inner peace, some inner stability and love, and you're not going to care so much about what people think about you. You're not going to be, trying to control what's happening in the world. So, Claire, Jane, if you're still on, maybe you'd like to share something that, maybe the other two who are on here, or anybody else who's going to watch this in the future, because I might well upload this to YouTube, or it'll just be on my Facebook page. Would you like to share something that maybe other people could have more of an insight, so they go, oh right, okay, so these people, these ladies have experienced something, and that there's something quite profound in that. There's something that hang on, what's Claire put? So the Enneagram has so many parallels with our personal sacred geometry. Okay, so the Enneagram has so many parallels with our own personal sacred geometry. Do you want to comment a little bit further on that? Definitely, if you look at the Enneagram, you look at the sacred geometry. In fact, while that's loading up, I can do it via this. That's that's an intelligence. There's an intelligence that created that. I think I probably prefer calling it the Tao than calling it God or life, or I can call it life or the universe. But there's an intelligence there. It's an intelligence at work. Look, here we are. The reformer can struggle with micromanagement and criticism. The mentor, the Enneatype 2, favoritism and manipulation. James commented, understanding my Enneagram type helped my longing for security, and you're a love and approval type and need to be loved. I can do that all by myself now. Brilliant. You saw me, how many years ago was it, Jane, now? 5 years ago? 6 years ago? Our whole physical being, DNA. Quite well, possibly, Claire, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like, what would you say, Jane, now? I mean, you've been working on yourself for quite a while now. Like, I started working on myself with all of this in 2006. So it's an ongoing process. It'll be 14 years this May. Yeah, it's a never-ending thing. Here we are, the achiever. What can they struggle with? Relentless work schedules and taking credit. The designer, the Enneatype 4, moodiness and erratic work habits. Enneatype 5's non-communication and lack of involvement. The troubleshooter, procrastination and blaming others. The enthusiast, distraction and unfinished projects. The challenger, anti-authoritarianism and confrontations. Think about Trump, The peacemaker, neglect and passivity. I can see Claire and 6 to 7 years, is it really, Jane? Wow, yeah. Jane came, Jane only had 3 sessions with me, and she had ulcerative colitis and was bedridden. And you did, was it 2013? We did one in the spring, we did one in the summer, and we did one in the autumn. Didn't hear from her again, and by the next spring, she came back because she was healed. And although we did EFT, I think the Enneagram was the thing that really, really helped you. It highlighted your ego suffering and how you were creating your own problems. So Jane was magnificent and came back and actually came in person because she was in Leicestershire at the time, which if you're watching around the world is not that close to where I am. It's more like an hour and a half away. And she came back and she was so grateful. She did me a video testimonial. And from that, I think in total, I don't know how much work that's brought me in, 15 to 20,000 pounds, if not more. It's actually, I think I shared with you, Jane, it's actually, there's a world champion sportsman that my name has been passed on to just regarding the Enneagram. I've always wished to work with that person, and it may well be that I end up working with them. So yeah, it was a really good thing, with Jane. What's Jane put here? Do different types have to look at different ways of bringing themselves? What do you mean, bringing themselves? Is that a typo? Do different types have to look at different ways of bringing themselves? I think you might have to do that one again, because I don't understand that. You are amazing and intelligent. Bless you. Thank you. But that would just be ego if I was looking for that. So I think it's like, this is another thing. Jane's just paid me a beautiful, wonderful compliment then. And it's, but when you work on yourself with the Enneagram, because you're not striving for love and approval, even though I'm a security type, it's like when people say things like that, it's like the icing or the cherry on the cake, but it's not the cake. You've worked on it. You've created the cake. You've realized that that you are a worthy human being just by the fact that you're alive. You are worthy of love. And if anything, on the spiritual path and the healing path, it all starts with self-love. If you're not doing self-love, it doesn't matter what Enneatype you are. If you're not doing self-love, you're trying to search for it externally. You're trying to get something. So just to do practices that help to still your mind, ground into your body, open your heart, are all going to lead to more being, and that's a loving act. If you had a twin sister, or like if I had a twin brother and I saw him struggling, I'd be like, what are you doing today? What are you doing today that's helping you? What can you do today? What have you done? So that you'll hold yourself accountable for either the suffering that you're creating in your life or the peace that you're creating in your life. And the more that you create that peace in your life, the more that others are going to benefit, because it will have a ripple effect. It's like I said in a video when I was on the side of Clee Hill, it's like, if you're in a really unhealthy place with your Enneagram type, that's poisonous for you, but it's poisonous for the world around you. Look how much it's going to cost the economy, if we're looking in regarding the NHS, or the cost that it is to other people's being around you. So there's financial costs, there's emotional costs, there's psychological costs. So the more that you work on yourself, there's less of a cost. If at no cost, you're giving back. So you're not taking. The more you work and evolve on yourself, you're actually giving back, and you're changing the world. The world, like the Tao Te Ching I read out the other day. It's like the world is perfect as it is. We try and the ego thinks that it needs to get rid of a reminder here. The ego thinks that there's something wrong and we need to do something, but from all that I've learned, it's the fact that the most important thing is that if you can evolve yourself, you're creating more being, and that in itself is what is needed more in the world, more being. Because then you're going to be able to, it's not that you're being without doing, but you'll be whilst you're doing. You're not wanting whilst you're doing. So you're more centered, you're more still, you're more in your heart. And so what you do is more effective, what you do is more pure, and it's the antidote to the poison. And it's actually the paradox. It's the fact that, like, one of the absolute riches of what I do is, like, someone comes back and they'll say, like, you've helped me and you've changed my life, but you've changed my partners too. And because the partners worked out their own Enneagram type, because they've bought the books and they've got the audios, and they've got access to the $250 or £200 worth of life-changing audios that I give people in 5-session packages. And that's affected the partner. It's probably affected the kids. That's then going to affect work colleagues. It's going to affect the mother, the father, or the children, the extended family, the friends. I am a small business, and this still does work by word of mouth, and I know I've got loads of videos out there, but word of mouth still is fantastic. I just picked up a client in Florida from word of mouth, and then I got an email, and I was addressed as Dr. Daniel Hill last night after I came back from my walk, which was just mind-blowing. I've never had that before, and I made sure, look, I'm not a doctor, but I made an Enneagram post out of it regarding Dr. Lionel Logue, who the King George V thought he was doctor. He used to call him Dr. Logue. But he said, I'm not a doctor, I just have experience, and I had to go deeper, and that's what the Enneagram does, it just goes deeper. Okay, what she said here. Do all of the types have to do the same thinking to bring them more central? Sorry, struggling somehow to communicate this question for some reason. Do all of the types have to do the same thinking to bring them more central, to being in central? Do all the types have to do the same thinking? It's actually really the absence of thinking, isn't it? So there are various practices for every type that's going to help them to learn to be and to create being in their life. Every single one of the types experiences the world differently. So there are commonalities, and there are also, quite different things. I'm trying to work out exactly what you're saying to me there. Do all the types have to do the same thinking to bring them more centrally? It's really the absence of the egoic thinking. What I would say is yes and no to that, to make it confusing. Maybe I'm confused by the question, but it's you've understood it. Yeah, okay. So it's really the absence of the thinking. The thinking is the thinking is I want something externally outside of myself. When I get that externally, then I can be. And that's just not going to work. Now, does that require some thinking to realize that that's not going to work? Yes and no. It's really like an old paradigm that you realize that, you know, you don't have to be in anymore. It doesn't work anymore. Another analogy I've got is like, it's like waking up every day, you know, and with the greatest will in the world, you wake up every day and you look east and you go, today I'm going to see a sunset. You're going to get disappointed at a sunrise because you have to go the other way. It's not, you're never going to find it outside of yourself. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. Sometimes I see multi-millionaires and they're like, Daniel, I've got everything in my life. I don't know why I'm so unhappy. Enneatype 3 with a 4 wing sometimes, sometimes 3 twos. And they realize that something's fundamentally amiss because they've got everything that they want, but I'm not happy. I should be happy. Why aren't I happy? And I love working with people like that. It's like, you know, they've tried to get the money has tried to buy them everything that they've wanted to get, and this, you know, there's a quote that comes from the Bible that makes me think about this. I think Jesus says something like, he says to this king, he says, you know, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you need to let go of the riches, you know, the kingly riches. Why? Because the ego's wanting things externally all of the time. And, you know, Jesus being this symbol of just this being and love, and, you know, you don't need to be constantly striving outside of yourself. Anyway, and the Buddha was very simple in those teachings. And I actually, might be slightly controversial for some people. Hey, Blake's another ex-client, Enneatype 6, all the way in Louisiana. Send some love to Blake. Blake did me a fantastic video testimony many years ago now, about 5 years ago, was it, Blake? So I think, actually, slightly controversial, I'm going to say, I believe that if Jesus existed, and there's evidence to suggest he did and didn't, but I think Jesus studied Buddhism. Jesus is missing years, and they think that he may well have gone to India and studied Buddhism. Because I can see the correlation with all religion, you know, within every single religious text now. Having understood the Enneagram so well, I can pick up any religious text and I see the Enneagram right through it. I had a Sikh friend who took me to a Sikh Gurdwara, and we put on something on the head. I think that's to cover the crown chakra, or to respect the crown chakra. And they were reading from this sacred text. It's not the Bhagavad Gita. Well, I can't remember pronounce it. I think that's the sacred Hindu text. But they were reading from the sacred Sikh text, and everyone was greeted me. You know, I was the only white guy. It was in Birmingham. I was the only white guy, and they're reading from this text. Reading, you know, I don't know what's going on here. And I said, what are they saying? And you know what they said? Or what my friend Narinder, if Narinder ever comes on, what they said was, it won't be on here, because that was on the other one, but it was all of the, let's go here. They were reading from the Sikh text, this beautiful book, and they were reading it. It takes 4 days to read the book. Constant and non-stop. In fact, that might be a new word, non-stant. Yes, constant and non-stop. Not just constant, it's non-stant. Yeah, showing I'm Enneatype 6. So they were reading from this text, and my Sikh friend said, they're saying that if you do pride, if you do gluttony, if you do lust, if you do envy, and maybe one other, then you are going against God. And I went, they're talking about the Enneagram. They're talking about if you're in your ego, you're going against God, like the life, oneness, universe, all that is. And what was that? What was what, Claire? We have to. I'm in delay all of the time. What was that? I'm not sure what you're saying. So it was like this deep understanding that might go to another one. Let's just do this one. There was this deep understanding of like, this is what every religious text, every religious teaching is attempting to teach, this going beyond your ego. And the Enneagram is just like highlighting your ego. You can't get away from it. Some people say to me occasionally, they go, oh, well, all right, okay, my funny new word. Absolutely. What happens when you're out of your ego? So here again, Oscar Achazo's Enneagram of Virtues. So when you come out of your ego as an Enneagram, let's go back to front. What happens when you come out of your ego as an Enneagram type 9? Start going to action. 9s suffer with sloth. They're wanting harmony in the world. So if they put their needs first, then actually, they might create some imbalance. It might not be good. So, actually, they have to go to action. Okay, so there's the virtue. Innocence. I saw this with my dad. My dad was an Enneagram type 8. Like Trump, Putin. I was very afraid of him when I was growing up. But when he got terminally ill with cancer, he went to innocence. Think about what Enneagram type 8s struggle with, which is they've got a fear of being harmed, controlled, and violated. Not 100% sure, Claire, but maybe someone who was an 8. I'm not going to say much more than that. So they go and harm, control, and violate other people in a way of so that I'll harm you and control you so that you won't harm and control me. Yeah, great idea. That's going to work. So when my dad had terminal cancer, what was controlling and harming and violating him? It was the cancer. That cancer was doing that, and the only thing he had to do was learn to surrender. He couldn't. He never sat down and talked in his life. He was always doing something and silent. He went to his Enneagram type 5 in stress. Couldn't hardly get a word out of him. But cancer actually gifted him the opportunity to be still, to sit, and to open up and talk. And I witnessed my father experiencing this holy innocence, this innocence. You think your dad was an 8 as well. Okay, Jane, interesting. Enneagram type 7s. Ram Dass, if we've talked about psychedelics, Ram Dass developed a lot of psychedelics in the 60s. Definitely an Enneagram type 7, and really opened up his heart. He's just passed away. He even saw his stroke as a way of grace. He talked about being stroked rather than a stroke. So he saw that as a gift and something that helped to expand his consciousness. But they become sober, so it's sobriety. They go to more of a sober mind. You can see where Russell Brand has some more work to do. He's much more healthy as a 7 now, but he's got a lot more work to do in order to be able to get to having a real sober mind, having that real calmness, that real groundedness, and that sober mind where he's not trying to get something outside of himself which is going to fulfill him, this in this gluttonous way. It's that when they come out from all that, they have sobriety, this sober mind. Enneagram type 6s, that's me. Who else on here? That's Claire. That's Blake, if he's still watching. When we right now, it's like I still have like 20 or 30%, maybe slightly less now. I've grounded myself. I've just done a little practice. I very much feel my feet, even on the second floor flat here, apartment. I feel my feet on the floor. I can feel grounded that little bit more, which is, I've noticed my mind just stilling that little bit more as well. So when we come out of that wanting security and we listen to our guts, tune into our hearts, what our heart would wish, we're able to step into courage. It's a beautiful thing. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing something despite the fact that you're afraid anyway. Non-attachment is what 5s go to. Again, I think, can you just see that if I go there? Debbie Williams, hi Deb. I'm calmer. It's just that noticing that just sort of like, I'm still trying to force something here. I'm trying to push something. Stop. Still. I think now I'm up to 7 people watching. So I think it was like, to begin with, it's that little bit where, rabbit in the headlights, what's happening, and my whole nervous system is kind of like feeling more calmer now because it's okay. If people don't watch, they don't watch. I can feel my feet under on the ground. I can feel like the energy of the ground, even though I'm on the top floor flat. It's that just supporting me. So you can do this, all of you in life so we're all going to struggle to some extent either with needing to still our mind, needing to ground into the body, or open the heart. So it's just that recognition of, I'm doing it. You can do it in a meeting. You can do it. I've sometimes done it when I'm with a client. This is kind of a new experience for me because I haven't done Facebook Live with the Enneagram before, with a piece of blue tack over my microphone stand and just going like this. So in fact, all of us, I'm going to say, I'm not sure how long I've been doing this for. It's 3 o'clock. Let's just all still our mind and open our heart and ground into the body in 60 seconds. Okay? So you're all about 30 seconds to 45 seconds behind me, maybe even a minute at some point. Thank you, Claire. Thank you. Thank you, Jane. So just close your eyes for a second and ground into where you are, whether that's the floor, the sofa, the bed. I'd like you to just surrender to it. And just notice that it's supporting you. And just pay attention to the breath. Just imagine that the mind was like if the mind was like a spinning top, it's just slowing down. Slowing down. Slowing down. Now put a hand or both hands over your heart. And breathe into it and let go. Now I'd like you to find one thing in your life that you're grateful for right now. So we're going to open the heart. One thing. One thing. Maybe it's tuning in that you've got this right now. Maybe it's the fact that there's oxygen. Maybe it's the fact that you've got family in your life. That you've got your health. You can see, you can hear, you can feel. Just find something else now that you're grateful for. Breathe really deeply breathe in. Really go into that place of gratitude. Really be grateful. One more thing that you're deeply grateful for. Just find something. I thought about the food in my fridge and have a refrigerator keeping it cool. Okay, now open your eyes. Just look around you. Just notice. There's 5 of you. Thank you for staying. Just feel that little bit more grounded. Just notice how your mind is that more still. Notice how much more connected you are to your heart, appreciation. And notice how little your mind is attempting to get something outside of itself. So I can sense that ego mind of mine just really relax that much more, down to like 10, 15%. I'm looking out this window and just paying attention to nature. There's clouds. There's a tree, trees. There's a bird. There's so much stillness outside. That's one of the beautiful gifts that what's happened This is something that's been a gift. It's the fact there's so much stillness. No cars driving fast, trying to get somewhere. There's some stillness. There's some being. Okay, so everybody come back and just tell me what you experienced. What was going on for all of you? I think 5 of you stayed with me, so I wonder if all 5 of you could just share if you experienced something then. Was it hard for you to do that? Did you find it hard to open your heart? I've got 2 buzzards circling outside my bedroom window. Is that good or bad, Jane? I'm sure that's good. Yeah, sometimes when we do this, it's really hard to still our mind. Sometimes it's really hard to ground into the body. And sometimes it's really hard to open the heart, particularly if we're going through challenge and we're going through resistance. We're going through something that's really challenging. And we all are going through something challenging. Would anybody like to share, so other than Jane? What's going on? So I was only going to do this for half an hour, but I've got 6 people watching now. Good, they aren't vultures. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody got any questions? There's a few people new. When I opened my heart, tears started flowing. Beautiful, Sue. Beautiful. And that's necessary. You know, sometimes that we can go about our business and we're struggling to get something externally all of the time, egoically, and we're doing it because we're tranquilizing some sadness inside of ourselves. Hi, Ian. Any questions, please ask. So we're doing that. We think that, getting this next thing is going to take away our sadness. So if you did that and connected to your heart, Sue, it's quite well that, that there's some sadness that you're carrying, and it's beautiful that you're opening that up, and that you're getting in contact with it. Tears will always eventually stop. Let go and let be. If they're there, then let them go. It's made me realize how important to live in the moment. Thanks for sharing that, Claire. Totally. In fact, you could look at this whole coronavirus thing. It's like, if there was a great gift from it, if there was something that was really quite profound, if there was, and that is to be in the moment. Like the ego thinks, no, I'll only be in the moment when it's better and in the future. When I've got to this place where I'm happy, where I'm really secure, where I'm really in a place where I feel loved, when I'm really in this place where I'm really in control, then I'll relax, then I'll be okay. And it's all a nonsense. Why can we not be now? And why can we not experience that now? And there's a whole paradox with that. The more that you do that, and you move forward and you integrate with that consciousness, with that awareness, you're going to put so much stillness and love and good things into what you do. So I'm appreciating my energetic state now is more grounded, I'm more connected with my heart, more still. And I did do a little practice before I got into this, but it's just that still sort of nervy thing. I think the more I do Facebook Live, I think the better I'll be. What's Jane said here? I think we're all scared at the moment for different reasons. Yes, I think there are more people trying to connect. There has to be some sort of lesson coming out of this, this coronavirus. On my own personal journey, and that which I've used, I've worked with a couple of thousand clients in nearly 14 years. It's that on the journey to feeling better, to the creation of a new consciousness, there's always breakdowns, and no one wants the breakdown. But this is a breakdown in society. But through breakdowns, there are always breakthroughs, because we build again on something that's more solid. It's not It's not based on fear. It's based on love. It's based on a more solid foundation. And you look at the economy and what's happening and how it's set up. But a great deal of the world, is what I call wanting to get to be. They can't be. The world is made up of really kind of low to average Enneatypes. If we were going to look at the average consciousness on planet Earth, I mean taking everybody into account. If we go to the Enneagram, wisdom of the Enneagram, it's fallen on the Enneatype 3. So if we use this beautiful book here and we look at, it says type 3, levels of development. So we've got unhealthy levels, we've got average levels and healthy levels. So if we were going to just look at the consciousness in totality, where are we? Are we really highly evolved beings living on planet Earth? Are we really kind of Neanderthal and we're just, thinking of our own needs and, and constantly sort of, worried that someone's going to get us all of the time? No. So we're somewhere in the middle here. And Ross Hudson and Don Richard Riso, who sadly passed away, is no longer with us. He was a 4 with a 3 wing, and Russ Hudson is a 5 with a 4 wing. Both self-confess that's their types. They created the 9 levels, and 9 levels being that there are 9 types. So using this number, and it's my feeling that the general consciousness in life is like maybe in between here. It's low average to middle average at best. So that's like meeting somebody in life where they're low average. Like Jane, you asked how healthy Trump is. I'd say he's low to middle average. I might be wrong, but that's what I feel. He's low to middle average. So we're having a breakdown, and something's happening, and it's the birth of a new consciousness. And every time that happens, what happens is we can then go to the next level. So, and it's subtle. Now, will this make us go to the next level? No, it'll be like a 1% move up, or maybe 0.1% move. Maybe it might move a little bit higher. But they're all little shifts. They're all little things that end up adding to the whole conscious collective, the whole thing. Okay, bye, Jane. Thanks for what you've done. I know that you've put a few words here now, and I'll get back to that maybe for the benefit of the other 6 people here. But so on someone's personal journey, when they realize that what I call that wanting to get to be, which every Enneatype's doing when they're in in the unhealthy or even the average place, when you start to realize that doesn't work, then you start to create being. And I think what's happening in the world is another opportunity to create being. So that when things start up again, and when we get back into life, and when, it's like, what's for tea, Mum? And, we've got to pay the mortgage, and, like, how many pints of milk do we need? And, I've got to get my pension sorted, and sort of like, all that stuff, which will start back up again. I'd like to think that there'll be a new consciousness. There'll be something that I think it's inevitable that actually people will go, you know what? It's just not worth it that we're striving for something. I know that people's businesses are really. I've got a full week of clients because I'm working in America mostly this week. And Monday's an admin day for me. But what will happen is that there will be a new consciousness where people will be, we survived in that crisis. We survived when, we couldn't pay the rent or the mortgage. Something like the universe happened. There was something, I was all right. So, there's less of a need to worry for security types. There's less of a need to feel alone, and that there's no love in the world. Actually, if one of the most beautiful things is the fact that people are really being there for one another. It's like when my grandparents used to say in the Second World War, this Dunkirk spirit after the World War II, when everybody was in it together. And it's the same with control. We can relinquish control. No one can control really what's going on. The coronavirus right now really partly is in control. So we can relinquish all of that. In fact, something that came to mind was from my book, The Mayan Prophecies, that I read in 2012. And when I was meditating under Chichen Itza, El Castillo, one of the 7 wonders of the world, our resilience is bigger than our vulnerability. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Claire. Beautiful. I meditated on the 12th of the 12th of the 12th. Il Castillo, I read from my book, which is just down there, called Mayan Prophecies. And it said, as the things of, after 2012, it said, as the things of the world break up, the things of the spirit will gather together. So it said, after centuries upon centuries of materialism, this is the wise elders of the Mayan culture. They recognize that, you know, there'll be breakdowns, and breakdowns will lead to breakthroughs, and that the consciousness and the culture will shift and change, and that so yeah, I remember that key phrase. You know, as the things of the world break up, the things of the spirit will gather together, and there's certainly a lot of that going on, and that's one of the beautiful things. I don't think I finished this, did I? So when Enneatype 4s are not in their ego anymore, they have equanimity, balance. Enneatype 4, classic Enneatype 4, like Johnny Depp, Enneatype 4, Prince, Michael Jackson, David Bowie. David Bowie is an interesting case where, like, I think Iman was an Enneatype 9, or is, and I think they 9s and 4s and 4s and 9s, as well as 5s and 9s and 9s and 5s, can attract one another like moths to a flame. I think she provided this stillness and this kind of solidity to him that for him to experience more equanimity. Sadly, he didn't get to experience it really into his later age. But with Iman, I think he found someone his opposite almost. So whereas she was, I imagine, not really kind of high and low, and I think he'd probably done some a great deal of inner work as well. I like Bowie. It's sad that he's no longer with us. Truthfulness with Enneatype 3s when they're not pushing. Look at Oprah. Look at Wayne Dyer. Look what Wayne Dyer did. I don't know if anybody are fans of Wayne Dyer or were fans of Wayne Dyer. He still exists. He's still in the hearts and minds of many people. But he was an Enneatype 3. You look at Oprah. Oprah is an Enneatype 3. She's gone, much more to this place where she's this truthfulness. She's gone to this this authenticity, and asking herself, how much more money does she need? How much more status? How much whatever? And I think that's where her mid-American sort of Bible Belt upbringing regarding that sort of Christian upbringing was she really questioned things, and she started to look around at other spiritual authors and teachers, and she's a pretty good example of how an Enneatype 3 can go inward, and they can become more truthful. And that's not just with others, but that's with themselves. Enneatype 2's Jane, who's left us, beautiful example of how she's worked on herself so much, and for the last 7 years, and she can be really quite humble. So it's humility. And Enneatype 1s, it's serenity. When they're out of their ego, they're much more serene. They're and again, Adyashanti, a beautiful example of an Enneatype 1 with just much more of this serene mind. Gandhi was an Enneatype 1. Pope John Paul II, the Polish Pope, was an Enneatype 1. They're not the greatest examples. They were definitely evolving. Gandhi went to bed naked with his niece and her friend to teach himself not to go into temptation. I mean, I don't think that's the most highly evolved thing. So if you look at someone like Adyashanti, a beautiful example of how an Enneatype 1 can develop this still mind and this serene mind. because the mind's usually always looking externally for what's wrong with the world and being angry with it and seeing the injustice. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not sure how long I've been talking for. Can anyone tell me how long I've been talking for? I think I might wrap this up because I might go and get some food. Look what I've got here. Okay, I've got these numbers open. This is just going slightly different, off track. If anybody can tell me how long I've been doing this for, I'll be very grateful. World population. Look at the world population go up. 7,774,390,975, 6, 7, 8, 9. So today there have been 246,000 births, 103,000 deaths, which means despite the coronavirus, the population has increased today by 143,000. And so then we look at the coronavirus figures. So yesterday in the world we were up to 35,000 deaths with the coronavirus. So every day that figure is an extra 200,000 people on planet Earth. So the coronavirus is not even touching anything to do with cutting down population. So it's my feeling that we're going to see more of these things as Mother Nature attempts to be in control and attempts to cut down population. How many human beings really can live on planet Earth, particularly if we are not going to be a really healthy place within our Enneatype. So people wanting more stuff, more Coca-Cola, McDonald's, houses. When is enough enough? Yep. Breakdowns are breakthroughs, and we're all going to come out of this. And the more that you can still your mind, ground into your body, and open your heart during this, when life returns to normal, which it will, you'll go, it was really hard back then, actually, but I was working on myself, and if I could find some stillness, if I could still be in my heart then, if I could still realize I've got a body and I'm a human being and I'm alive, you'll prosper after this. Thank you so much for your comments. Thanks Claire, Sue, now, everyone else who's contributed. I will upload this to YouTube after. If you're watching on YouTube or have watched on YouTube, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Getting out there in the world. People still don't really understand the Enneagram, and I think those of you who've stayed this long have dedicated your consciousness to following this and maybe doing some of the practices yourself, and realize that you're in a small minority. By you going out and sharing this in the world and being great examples of this, you're doing good in the world. So I thank you for using this and as a tool for evolving, because that will serve the world, and you're doing a good job by evolving. Greatest lessons being learned alone with self, Helen. All right, okay, I think that's enough. You can share this. It would be wonderful if you shared this on your Facebook profile. That would be great, because other people may just tune into it. Not that people are going to watch for 2 hours, but some people might just go, okay, maybe that guy Daniel Hill who does the Enneagram, maybe that's something. Maybe you could help with my husband, my child, my father, or me. And or my best friend or something, and it just helps me just to get out there and help others, because this really does change people's lives.